Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of How I Did That. Today we're going to be having a look how I did Divergent Coda. I actually want to do something a little special for you guys because it's the holiday season. I'm feeling festive, so I thought I might give you guys a little bit of insight into how I sort of come up with the more surreal animations that I do. This is not what I do every time. This time was actually kind of flawed in my approach. Like I didn't fully go through the whole process that I would sometimes do, but I think that there's enough meat to this bone that I can sort of delve into it. So when trying to come up with ideas for my animations, it can be sort of difficult because I don't really make animations that are like in tune with what's currently popular or in the cultural zeitgeist. I'm sort of like an outsider to most everything. A lot of my ideas, my interests, and things that I like are really sort of eclectic, and both deliberately and also because of the way that I have lived, I guess. So this is the sort of framework that I've used for a few of my animations, where I have three separate categories: the literal things, the metaphorical things, and then the abstract things. So if I have a concept in mind, then I'm like, I want to sort of try and articulate a thought or a concept or a specific thing, but I want to do it in a more surreal, abstract place, sort of communicating in the language of animation. So I would write down everything that's literal associated with whatever thing it is. In this case, it's about Christmas and the holidays in general. You might notice that I'm censoring everything literal because I don't want... This is another thing, is when it comes to surreal, abstract, weird things, I believe that one of the strongest boons of art is how everybody interprets it their own way. So obviously my animation does not read as a classical holiday Christmas story, and that's great, that's fine. Some people will see it and maybe understand the Christmassy imagery, or the lack thereof, and some people won't, and that's like totally fine. I think that getting different viewpoints, different experiences, different lives, everything's sort of coalescing into this sort of brain blend of a YouTube petri dish of sorts. Sorry, I bet everybody listening right now is like, wow, this guy is really pretentious. This guy's a dickhead. I want people to just like tell me what every piece of information means. Like every story has concrete meanings. Anything said by game theory is 100% real, and there is no room for interpretation whatsoever, because fact is in and of itself the only reality. Tangent aside. So I write down everything literal about the concept. Then I sort of take a step back and I sort of try to reinterpret the literal things into more metaphorical interpretations. So you would see the metaphorical thing and be able to pretty easily identify it to what the literal thing is. And then what I would typically do after doing that is the abstract stage, which is to further take those interpretations of literal things and make them abstract. So just another step removed from reality. And of course, when doing the animation, I'm not picking only the most abstract, bizarre, out there things. I'm sort of picking and choosing between the literal, the metaphorical, and the abstract. Things that stand out to me that would make a compelling story, that would make for good visuals, good characters, etc., etc. So that's basically the very loose template for coming up with ideas for an animation. Of course, this is not what I do every time. A lot of the times, an idea will just come to me, or I will flesh something out while talking with someone else, etc., etc. Let's now move on to the second stage of pre-production, which is coming up with ideas, but more visually. So I created this drawing panel to sort of get some ideas out. As you can see, I have the sort of tinsel-y stuff here, the smiling faces and the dead eyes. I decided to make two separate things. And then after I drew in the teeth, I thought, wouldn't it be funny if like the teeth fell out like this? And that's sort of just like drawing ideas. It's really good to just like let things happen. Don't try and think too hard about things. It's just like you want to get into that flow state where ideas sort of compound and build into one another. Because a recurring theme of my ideas was hollowness, I thought about some sort of vast expanse, and something that has sort of always been stuck in my head ever since I first saw it is the defibrillation scene in The Thing, the John Carpenter movie, where the guy's like clear, and then he goes to put the defib on the guy's chest, but it opens up and eats his hands. Like, that is a visual, that sound, that visceral nature of it, that's just always sort of stuck in my head. So that was the inspiration for this. The thing cracking open and gasping because of how hollow it is. When you have a vacuum and you open the vacuum, things get sucked in. So I thought about a giant egg. This was kind of going to be just like a floating platform like that. I thought about doing a mountain like this that led to a river down there, and I was like, I don't know how to do good landscapes, basically, is what my thought process ended up being. But now let's move on to the star of the show, the world. So this was just a bunch of extruded and beveled edges of a cube. These are just like little planes that are wrapped around and then shrink wrapped onto the surface. I just did a few. It sort of looks tinsel-y, I guess. The tree, also just a subdivided cube. Subdivision is your best friend when working on soft materials. Sorry, I'm just looking for my characters. I guess this guy is like the best option I have. But the armature, since the character models are like very simplistic, I ended up making my own rigs. This is not something that I do very often. I usually use like auto rigs or pre-made rigs or things like that, but since it's just a tiny little body and a head, it was like, oh, that's easy. And fortunately, I was able to figure out IK much faster than the first time I tried to set up IK, inverse kinematics. So that really worked out nicely for me. This is something that you should not do when making an animation or something, is make permanent changes without having several iterations. This was very slapdash. I made this all very last minute. I think 90% of the animation I did after midnight on the day that the animation went up. So that is also not good behavior. You should get your sleep in. And if you look now, it is also almost midnight on the day before this goes up. So the reason I bring this up is because of the sphere in the center. The way that I did it cracking open and revealing what was inside was actually using sculpt mode, and then each frame sculpting it to like sort of crack open in a nice looking way. The dark hollowness is not actually the inside, it is a plane that has specular turned off completely. I think specular is just like how much it's affected by light around it. So because it is at 0, it is just perfectly blackest black. No amount of light will change how black it is. I did a bunch of sculpting too, like the characters' heads. You can't really tell when the clay is on, but if I turn it off, you can tell more so that it is like sculpted a smile. And then this guy has sculpted eyes, sort of eyelids area. And you can see where I was sculpting the sphere, it sort of poked through a bunch. Because to make the hole, I did just take the area that I sculpted in and then deleted it. That was to make the inside looking out scene. So, yeah. In my nondescript video editing program of choice, unfortunately, so because this was all last minute, there were a lot of repeat frames. Each time there's a still, I pretty much just animated 2 frames to cycle between. Tried to make it just like as short as possible. So yeah, this is, I sculpted it in, I used the dynamic topology, but it still sort of made it look like this weird jagged effect, which actually does read quite nicely. Oh, the way that I animated these guys like being sucked in, because as you saw, it was a plane. What I did was I actually scaled the models down and rotated them in front of the black plane. So they just get... then they just like duck behind the border. So it was just like a really simplistic sort of silly thing. I just hand animated... Oh, wait. Sorry. I'm a little scatterbrained right now. The way the teeth fall out, this part, it falling out, was actually a physics simulation. I don't think it actually reads as that because they kind of hold the shape of the mouth. But then when they're on the floor, that was just a bunch of subdivided cubes arranged in a semi-random pattern. And then I, of course, animated them going up very loosely, and then I went in like every frame on some of them and rotated and jumbled them up a bit so it wasn't perfect. Yeah, this was the scene that I removed the inside of. I did not realize that there's some of the frame poking through there. That's very unfortunate for me. And then, yeah, this guy was animated the same way with the just ducking beneath the border. I also used the sound effect from the thing of the chest cavity ripping open. I used that as the sound of this going open. Sorry, my throat is really really not good for me. God damn. But yeah, I think that's it. So I'll say thank you for watching. Appreciate the comments that were left on that video. I don't know if they're gonna see this video. People don't really stick around for too long, but I appreciate the comments wherever they pop up. And I will see you guys when I see you guys. Yeah, bye bye.